All right, welcome back to another episode of Camo Podcast. Still haven't released my last recorded episode, but I'm going to start scheduling them because now I'm on a roll. I'm on a roll again. I'm going to get them scheduled so they start flowing out. So be sure to subscribe on Spotify. Just look up Cameo with Nevin Webster or look up Cam Loops. You'll find the podcast on Spotify there or iTunes or wherever else. And yeah, really going to try and put a really big shine on some community figures in a different way. Uncut, unscripted, unedited. And if you don't like that, let me know. 250-572-4668. I ain't scared of text calls or whatever it be. But my next guest, he is, how do I describe this? He shares a common love of dark humor. He's a little bit more tasteful in his writing when explaining himself, given that he has a career in journalism. And you came from the Daily initially, Todd.
No, I came from Williams Lake.
This is Todd Stewart, Williams Lake.
Sullivan.
Oh, wait. The Soup. Was that you?
The Stew.
The Stew.
Yeah, and it's Todd Sullivan.
It's Todd Sullivan. Sorry. Yeah. Why did I call you Stone? Fuck. I know it's Sullivan. You know the problem is I have to literally think of your Facebook purple image of your face.
Right.
But you recently changed it. Did you?
I put one of those Facebook banners on it because I did a post, a couple of days ago about depression and suicide. And
it was National Suicide Day 2 days ago. It's not National Suicide Day. National Suicide Awareness.
World Suicide
Awareness Day.
And so,
there we go.
Because I've always been sort of comfortable talking about my own experiences, and that's led to a desire to push against the stigma of mental illness by talking about my own experiences. So I decided to make a post about that. And then after I posted it, Facebook gave me the option to attach a fundraiser to it. So
I saw that.
Not?
I don't trust those yet.
You know, I don't think anyone threw any money at it, which is fine. It was just one of those things where after I did it, I thought if there was an organization connected to suicide or mental illness, I could throw it on there, and what's the harm?
I had the option for my birthday, and you get all this money attention thrown at you, right? So you're like, okay, well, at least I could throw it off me on something, which is what I guess Facebook's trying to do.
Yeah.
Just I don't trust the money distribution.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't.
Yeah, and that's
really...
fair. I mean, I certainly haven't done any research about how that works and whether it goes through Facebook's people or goes directly to. Thank you.
I remember your name. And it's been weeks.
Whether it goes through straight to the organization or what percentages or what, but yeah, I mean, I don't think I would do it regularly, but it just seemed like the right thing to do at that moment.
Yeah,
so.
Mental health has been pretty big in recent weeks. To the far extreme, we had the two young boys running around and their father writing a memoir, and then to the other nicer extremes, you have Christian Shaw pushing for accessibility. So obviously, it's a very, very big spectrum.
Yeah.
Where do you think the conversation needs to be going? Because some of it seems disingenuous, the conversation. Some of it seems too real, and some of it seems fabricated. You know what I mean? Like coming from the hip hop SoundCloud world, seeing the I'm so depressed pop punk, Nirvana, I want to die, right, being what sells records now in a new form of pop punk, spearheaded by people like Playboi Carti and Lil Uzi Vert and Lil Peep. How do you think the conversation needs to be framed? Or do you think the conversation's just getting started and we haven't even talked about framing yet?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think, you have a challenge where you have, in those examples, you have artists who are, I don't want to necessarily say capitalizing on depression, but who are giving it a certain, air of cool.
Cult of personality is what it is.
Yeah, and does that get in the way of having a legitimate conversation about the dangers of mental illness and that sort of thing? So,
it's that line of at what point does art cross the line, or is there even a line to cross?
Yeah,
and I think you've seen me dance on that line before, and I know some of your humor wants to push the boundaries at times too, but you're much more mature than me in your approaches. But where do you think, as a society, we should be doing? Because my simplest way of explaining is if you wouldn't do it in front of your parents in public, or say it in public in front of your parents or grandparents, right? Like maybe it doesn't need to exist.
Right.
But that's with my grandparents being like good role models.
Yeah.
At least the stories I know.
And I think, the different people have different limits on what they'll say in front of their parents, like especially as they get older. Like I say way, way more in front of my parents now than I would have when I was,
what are they
20
going to do?
25.
You're going to take my last
name,
Mom?
I think, exactly. And I think I'm smarter. Obviously, I'm more mature, but sometimes that leads to being able to say more controversial things because you're better prepared to defend it. You have a better understanding of the world that brings you to those ideas, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I've noticed, like yesterday I got in a battle with someone who, to be honest, I don't know anything about him. I just characterize him as a boomer. And he's like, well, you should have stated that explicitly. I'm like, at what point does my time not value that I need to make sure that all gaps in my thinking or logic or writing are filled when I'm not being paid to do it?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a journalist who's trying to cover something and make sure all the facts are out there.
Right.
I'm not picking and choosing what to leave out or what to leave in. It's just, here's my snarkiness. I'll fill you in if you entertain. Is that a fair way of putting it?
I mean, I guess engagement on Facebook with people, and I'm assuming, I don't know if you said it was Facebook.
Oh yeah, that interaction was Facebook.
Yeah. I don't know if there's really any hard and fast rules about how you should engage with other people. I know for myself, it's important to fact check when you're sharing something. Make sure that what you're putting out there is valid and true and accurate. That comes from a background in journalism, obviously. It's my job to make sure that what I'm putting out there is accurate.
Yeah.
And I think the average person maybe doesn't care as much about that. But as far as engagement, as far as conversations go, I mean, what you put into it is what you're going to get back out of it. Totally. So
it's kind of it really is a mirror. The social media just exposes people.
Yeah.
And I guess a lot of people don't get that. Like, they don't realize I'm not as loud and angry in person as I might appear online, because I can take that grade 4 writing class in my mind, retake and be like, let's make this more impactful. Mm-hmm. Symbolism is something that I have present in my life. And right now, I like the ride, don't hide bike, and how they use the bike motif, because the bike economy is greatly affected by mental health.
Yeah.
Right? You have people often complaining about their bikes being stolen or someone riding around on bikes and stuff. Like, bikes are a powerful symbol of a mountain biking community with an underground economy built on it, all pertaining around mental health.
I think another important conversation around mental health at the moment is the question of addiction.
Well, yeah, addiction is you should eat your sandwich, Todd. But addiction is it's so hard for people to really fathom brains and what it's like to be the brain of an addict. And I guess I'm just starting to understand it, and it's only taken me a very long time to even rationalize to people calling myself an alcoholic publicly in a nonchalant, candid way. To say, hey, I'm an addict is not something to be proud of, but I know how to harness that energy, right? It's the people that don't know how to harness that energy that end up getting into trouble, or when I don't harness it, and then I get in trouble, and you know when that is, right? But Todd's just eating a really delicious looking Portuguese.
I'm trying to keep my face
sandwich
away from the microphone while I'm chewing.
Oh, I've done it. I've eaten many times on it with other people. I think that's part of what I like about this podcast. Is it's just so real in the sense that I don't care about the quality. It's about the conversation and time at hand. The offhand value is that it's recorded to be shared. Where a lot of people think that is the value from the initial get. The initial value is that their voice will be hit the internet radio waves.
Right.
But it's actually I've met 100 people face to face in this community as someone who is an INFJ personality type, the quickest way to explain it to people is an ambivert, aka an introverted extrovert. It's difficult for me, but I can overshare in the right context.
Yeah.
Right? When I control the situation. And right now I'm controlling the microphone to allow Todd to eat. But picking Mustache and Go is a controlled situation because, the baristas know me by name. I walk by, I'm on this strip every day. Tranquil is my home. And that's something, actually, I do want to talk about a lot with you because a lot of our interactions are from Facebook because you went to the newspaper.
I'm not sure if we've actually met in person before.
No. We've I was friends with your partner from the stew.
Yeah.
And then, but it's mostly been Facebook.
Yeah.
And because even your career, as a writer here in town was after I left the newspaper too. So you were like one of the persons that I was like excited to be like, oh, that's a real journalist coming in and has a very, very creative side. Like dangerously dark creative, and I don't really want to like get into some of your alt accounts that I know exist out there. But it got me excited, and it was actually really cool because I see your community feature pieces quite a lot in the newspaper. The last one was the book bus, the book bus, the book bus. My daughter brings home books like every week from this thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Like what? How do you get free books? Like I've heard of does like Dolly Parton will like mail certain people free books for like years and years, but Kamloops doesn't exist. Other places in Canada allows for it.
Right.
But like, how do you get free books? Explain this to me. I haven't read the article yet.
Oh, well, as far as how does the book bus get them, or
yeah, like how do kids get books? Like I'm obsessed with library, free knowledge, because the internet is just a massive library.
Yeah.
And I've had a library card since like grade 1. Like I'm a library kid through and through. Like I can go off. My middle name's Arthur. Like having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card.
Yeah.
I held on to my library card for my old library because they had it's almost 3-4 times the size of Kamloops at this point. So their network of library books online through the Libby app, previously Overdrive, if Kamloops didn't have it, I pop over, they'd have it.
I love Libby.
Libby is amazing. It's like it's Audible but free, and all you need to do is go to a library and get a library card. Librarians are great people too. Just the programs there. They also got like what they got pajama time, bedtime stories starting up again.
Right.
I know that much. And there's also some sort of father and kid specialty program because dads have trouble connecting with their kid.
Yep.
Lord knows that I did not like my kid for the first year of her
Really?
life. Yeah. Fucking depressed as shit.
Wow.
Hated her. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say it's weird. I think everyone bonds at a different pace. I remember when my daughter was born, you hear those stories about how, you're madly in love with them as soon as they emerge from the womb, and it's like, that didn't happen to me. And I think the more I've talked about that with people, they're like, oh, yeah, no, that's bullshit. But, because they're just, there's nothing there. They're just like a lumpy potato person.
Totally. The hardest part for me is it's not just like you'll immediately love them or whatever it be. It's people telling you, oh, you'll never be ready for kids. And be like, bullshit. Not true at all. If I had some more Benjamins in the bank, I totally would be ready because a lot of my anxieties came from exactly that, right? Like, here's another mouth to feed. Here's all this thing.
Sure.
But like, I think like it's a very elitist thing to say, like, if you don't have money, you don't deserve to do literally the only thing humans were created to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Like biologically. And that's another thing people don't realize. How sorry for everyone for talking so much because he's just finishing his breakfast. In the world history, how finite humans in their modern form have existed, right? And people are complaining about like the last couple decades, right? Like evolution took Millennium Falcon to get here. And now they're complaining about like, oh, we haven't figured out the right way to govern people yet. But God forbid, at least we're not dying in masses from a plague.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem with looking at evolution that way is that those sorts of numbers are so astronomical that people can't wrap their heads around them. You know, a million. The difference between a million and a billion in years, in time, is just conceptually
It looks
so
like it's
difficult
just a
to
B
comprehend.
to an M, but you can't count it. Like
Yeah.
letters are letters. These are numbers.
Yeah.
And it's
And
so,
even just those extra 3 zeros isn't enough to really give you a true concept of the amount of time difference that is.
well, it's just like when I have people complaining about stuff, and it's like, you're complaining to me on a cell phone.
Right?
Like, I think back to your high school, great. Think back to my high school, BBM was cool.
Mhm.
In grade 10, right? Like, so like my whole framework of like what is technology and what my teachers were like telling us are the future and what is the future now, as someone who literally lived it from I'm a student growing up in this world, they couldn't understand the psychology or the technological leaps
Yeah.
that it would play. To them, it was just like getting your book in a library,
Right.
right? They totally forgot that you can actually interact with other people in the library. And some people who go to the library like to do their drugs in the bathroom.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I remember, I was just a couple of years out of high school when the internet first started kind of getting into the mainstream. And I was so excited at this idea that created this sort of publishing playing field where everyone was kind of equal, right? Like I could put up a website and I had access to the same audience as Penguin Books or Time Magazine.
In theory.
In theory,
yes.
yeah. I wouldn't necessarily have that audience, but they were available to me.
There's the opportunity.
Yeah.
You can work outside of 9 to 5
Yeah.
from your home on a personal computer.
So I thought that democratization of publishing was really exciting. But it didn't occur to me that not everyone would utilize it in the best way.
Yeah.
And so now that's led us to situations where there's all of this wrong information about vaccines and wrong information about, climate change that is available that people can read that, supports their wrong beliefs.
Yeah.
And because it's on the internet, they're like, oh, well, it's the equivalent of information that's over here, and it's not.
Yeah, I struggle very greatly with, like, what is IP? What is intellectual property? Where does the line draw? Like the idea of what's a meme? How do you make something classified as a meme? At what point do you now lose control over your image so that, you could have the biggest brands in the world tweeting a picture of you or your picture or whatever it be because it's become a meme versus using someone else's image to further your platform and agenda, right?
Well,
like,
that's like the creator behind the Pepe the Frog cartoon.
Oh, that's
right?
a great story.
He completely lost control of that image to the point where he ended up killing the character off in his strip.
Yeah.
He was so frustrated at the fact that it had been co-opted by the alt-right.
Really quick to fill in, Pepe the Frog is a famous 4chan character of a frog that used to represent feeling something, anything, and it was moved over into neo-Nazi undertones by people who believe such things as Pizzagate, chemtrails, the moon landing was fake. Let's put it simply that way.
Yeah.
Not to go too broad, but that's probably the best way to explain Pepe.
That's a fair point, too, because it was an evolution. At first, it was just, feels bad, man, feels good, man. Those memes, which were, certainly much more benign. But then from there, it evolved into the alt-right messaging, and
it always escalates. Like, it takes 7 times for an ad to be recognized, like from an ad sales perspective, right? If you aren't paying for your ad to be put, let's say, 7 places on the street, on this strip, well, they're probably going to miss it every single time. But if they see it 7 times, now they'll actually have recall.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the thing with memes. And the thing about memes is you can publish the first draft. There's no need for it to be perfect.
Oh, because it'll evolve and people
because it will evolve,
and,
right? Like your purpose of a meme is to trigger someone else's thought, someone else's viral thought, but really it starts off with triggering someone to think, hey, I need to fix this or alter this or add my spin to this, and then they have to do it, now making it viral because it's now on the internet in a mutation.
Mm.
And a lot of people think of that, right? Like let's say someone's ad takes 20 iterations, right? Like on the internet, that could be 20 literal ads that you could publish. You just have to be okay with like being the guy who publishes 20 iterations of the same ad that has spelling errors. But that would actually be effective.
Good.
And that's what Pepe essentially did, because it was effective because of the right audience, which was on 4chan.
Yeah.
Which, in an anonymous world, is very dangerous when you have young 14-year-old boys who like playing with airsoft guns. Yeah,
but again, it's for me, it's such a challenging subject because I am very much a proponent of free speech.
Oh, for sure.
Very much, anti-censorship. But I do think, to, I guess, go back on something we were talking about earlier, there is a line where speech does become dangerous. And the question becomes, do we allow people to cross that line or not? And I'm not 100% sure I know where I sit on that issue.
I think that's going to be tested a lot in the next decade, especially as we move into an era where employment is going to be less necessary. I guess, to not get too deep into a conversation of automation.
Yeah.
And
speaking of that, though, I just read a story like yesterday or the day before that McDonald's is buying a voice recognition company.
Oh, really?
And they're going to adapt voice recognition into all of their drive-thru stuff. So,
Jesus,
that's going to reduce some. Well, not necessarily. I shouldn't necessarily say reduce, because they could just end up putting those people someplace else. Because if they're able to take and process orders faster than before, they're going to need people, cooking more.
Historically, every time a technological advance removes some jobs, it actually creates more jobs.
Yeah.
If you want to go back from like an economist view, back to like the printing press and the Luddites and that whole side of things, history just repeats itself. We're just in like a really fancy digital technological revolution right now. And it's scary to the old guard, the old stock, the people who want to go back to the way things once were, because that's comfortable, right? But they also don't remember, the computer in my big Ford truck or my big Dodge or Toyota, actually a little Toyota Corolla, has like, I forget, like 10 times more code than like the first Apollo space machine, right? Like, that's insane. And you bought it for like $2,000 off some guy, this little Corolla, and you're driving it for 5 more years, and it keeps on going and going, right? Like,
and all that computing power is going towards helping you back up more efficiently.
Yeah,
like what a great use of the technology. But I mean, that's the way technology expands too, right? Like, it becomes so commonplace. I can't even imagine what the processor in my phone would compare to computer-wise. Like,
it's insane.
Yeah,
like I'm just, like I commented this morning online in multiple places. If Trump can run the free world from a Samsung S3, you can learn Twitter, or you can learn Reddit, or you can learn anything at all. Like, just the concept of like this old phone. Like, if I handed someone a Samsung S3 who was complaining to me about all the world is destroyed by the phone and stuff, they're like, okay, give me your fancy phone, take this S3, you can text, you can phone call, you can't do much more than that.
Oh, there's tons of apps on the S3. I mean, you probably can't get them anymore because they've all been replaced by the newer versions.
Yeah, but it will be very janky and slow, and they will feel extremely anxious and cut off from society because our phones are society now. Right? Like, it's taken us away from being in the public square, but we've rebuilt the public square.
Yeah.
Right? Like, looking on Facebook and Kamloops, there's a lot of different public squares with very different communities. even in this small community of Kamloops.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting the different players we see. Some players I'm not a fan of. I started coming after them. It's been fun.
I think one of the things that's happened as the world has gotten bigger is it's caused our communities to, and by communities I mean the people that we congregate with, to get smaller and more distinct.
Yes. Like let's look at fashion or art or something like I just learned about dadaism. Dadaism.
Right.
The concept that like art is if you make art so meaningless, it actually makes things have meaning again.
Okay, that's interesting.
Right? So it's basically like nihilism in an artistic form.
Yeah.
It and to explain it to other people, punk rock did it to what rock was.
Yeah.
Punk rock just bastardized rock.
Yeah.
Right? But it made rock valuable again after it had its time, whatever it be, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in this phase of like, I think if you just create so much meaningless stuff, it starts creating meaning again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, does that really further the agenda that of like trying to make the world a better place? A little bit.
But then the question is like, does everything that you do have to be moving towards making the world a better place?
Ooh, that's a good thought.
You know,
like, but who like? That's something I question, right? Like, at what point is like sharing and expressing a thought and feeling I have that maybe I need to offload, right? But I know might not make the world a better place. But the flip side of that is like, not the flip side. The part that I'm failing to understand or share is like sometimes there's something you need to say and it needs to hit a certain audience for you to have the feelings of relief.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like if you post it here and it gets no traction or whatever it be, you know, I never care about that. But sometimes I want to hear the right person to hear it, but I don't want to call them out personally, right? So you have to do it in that weird public setting, but you know it's not going to make a better place. Like, like that's something I struggle with. I struggle with a lot of things, obviously, but like
it sounds kind of like a subtweet. Is that sort of what you're talking about, where you're?
It's kind of like you want to call someone out, but you don't really want to actually do it.
Yeah.
You just know that it would, if you write it in the right way, they will understand.
But everybody else will be kind of.
But everyone else be like, "What the fuck, man? Like, you're this is wrong." You know what I mean? Like it's so hyper niche.
Yeah.
And you know it connects because you have ways to track and you know other ways, right?
I think if getting that message out in that way is important to you, then it's something you should do.
But do you think like in a digital world, like it's not like I'm on this corner of the street handing out flyers or whatever it be. Like I've been chatting with this guy. His name's Alex. He runs Freebird Media. He's a bit of a character.
Okay.
He had Dr. James Spears, on his podcast, who is, well, he's going to jail for hate crimes.
Oh, okay.
You know, he's straight up anti-Semite, right? His website's horrible. And he's of the opinion, like, you're just exploring. Like, I'm trying to understand, like what parts of space or the brain should you stop exploring? You know, like is going into the darkness considered exploratory and necessary for science and whatever it be, or artistic, or is that something you should start gating off in society or personally or whatever? You know what I mean?
Yeah, boy. I am definitely someone who likes exploring the darkness, and so I would have a hard time saying that we shouldn't do that. But at the same time, it's hard because there are probably, I don't want to say that there are people who shouldn't do it, but there are. It needs to come with a certain amount of maturity, self-awareness. Yeah,
it's like I love Andy Warhol, but in a different timeline, Andy Warhol was Columbine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like where, like, I really struggle. Like, I believe in freedom to the most strongest patriotic expression that I can't express.
Yeah.
But we don't actually have free speech here. We have free expression.
Yeah.
Which I like free expression almost as a verb or wording better than anything at all, just because it's not just about speech. It's about expression, but it has that limiters on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really struggling with this expression of dark stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you look through my timeline, I do some of the darkest shit probably in this community. And I get texts off of platform saying you should probably not say that. Right? And that sort of stuff is like, okay, well, am I explaining something? Am I doing a hard truth? Is this my version of this hour has 22 minutes? Or would this hour have 22 minutes approached it in a more lighthearted way? Or does it only seem dark because people are reading it in the mindset they think I'm writing it, not seeing me laughing the whole way through?
Yeah, that's true too. Yep. I mean, again, like I said, I love digging into the darkness to see what's there because I'm really curious about what other people think, why they think those things, how they got to those places. A number of years ago, I read a book called the Turner Diaries, which I had to...
Fiction or nonfiction?
It's fiction.
Okay.
And it's actually banned in Canada, which is one of the reasons
very interesting.
went looking for it. And it's sort of... it's a right-wing militia fantasy.
Oh, okay.
And
why.
I believe it was on the bookshelf of one of the... Oh, what was his name? He bombed a thing years ago. And his bombing was based somewhat on a bombing that happened in this book. And it's basically about, this right-wing army rising up and
it was inciting violence.
Yeah. And but I read it because, it was banned in Canada, so I was like, oh, what kind of shit's banned in Canada? And also, again, just because I like to explore those dark areas and see what
you can put yourself in their
are
shoes
thinking
for
about.
a second, for
Yeah.
sure.
But I can also definitely see how, with the wrong mindset or with the wrong perspective, it could be a dangerous book. So,
which is why Jordan Peterson is...
Oh, God, I hate him.
Man, you know what I hate more than anything? Is when I fall prey to someone, and then I wake up.
Mm-hmm.
It happened with Jordan Peterson. It happened with Tom MacDonald, who's a Canadian rapper who writes songs such as "If I Was a Black Person."
Okay.
Right, like total white privilege, dude. You came from Canada, and you're trying to no. He does it in such a way everyone hates him, like he's going against PC culture.
Right.
But we're 32 minutes in. I'm not sure what your schedule's like, Todd. Cool. I saw you commenting about Unplanned. That's an interesting topic here in town right now because the local film organization, nonprofit, who needs money coming in, has been paid to host a third-party screening of a very controversial abortion. I want to call it a mockumentary because it's not factual, from my understanding.
Yeah, it's not. To me, a mockumentary is it's a film that looks like a documentary and plays like a documentary.
It's more sad. It is obviously satire.
It's not. It is based on a true story, but it's not a documentary. And apparently, and again, I haven't.
It's not a documentary. I will clarify. It's people who are presenting their truth that are inaccurate.
Yeah, and I think. The one thing that bugs me about the issue here locally, because I do support the Film Society's decision to rent the space.
Yes.
But I just wish they wouldn't frame it as a censorship question, because when a group or a business decides not to publish your material, that's not censorship. That's not what censorship is.
So many people don't understand what censorship is. It's
exactly.
And it drives me nuts because I cannot communicate with them one-on-one with a chalkboard to go guys, teaching lesson. Sorry, I'm young, but you need to learn this if you're going to use that phrase.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating because it's like a trigger word. As soon as that word comes out, everyone's like, "Oh, we got to stop doing that then."
Oh, and it's like when someone calls rape. Like that was a joke at one point. You just yell rape, in public and see who looks.
Yeah, don't say help, right?
Don't say help. Yeah, like
Whatever.
you have to say the most like shocking thing, and for some reason censorship is a shocking thing, right? Like it's not censorship, guys.
Yeah.
Censorship would be the telcos cutting off your internet that you're self-hosting a website. Sorry,
Yep.
guys. That's about as close to censorship as you can get in Canada. Like, there's literally no other scenarios that I've really been able to dream up that you can actually get censored. Everything else is a private platform. Unless
exactly.
unless you self-host, and unless people say you cannot access the internet, like TELUS when they knocked off my internet for 48 hours and pissed me right off.
Well, we are almost to a point where the internet needs to be considered, a basic human right.
Oh, it very much is.
Yeah.
And the way, everything's going, right? Like, you even have TELUS moving into TELUS Health, where you're meeting with a doctor from your home on your phone. Like if the telcos are moving into healthcare, and they've already gotten how many billions of dollars from the government for things they've never delivered, we got some chatting to do, guys,
Yeah.
because like soon your fridge is going to be connected, right? Like literally, we're probably 2 years away from your grocery store of choice knowing exactly what's in your fridge
Well,
at any
I've
point.
seen refrigerators now that have cameras on the inside of them. So when you're in
Yeah.
the grocery store, you can pull out your phone, pull out your fridge app, and you can see, oh, do I still have milk?
But it's going to be self-ordering soon. Like, you got Walmart doing the 1-hour delivery here in Kelowna and Kamloops
Yep.
starting soon, right? Like, and 7-Eleven. Have you been to 7-Eleven recently?
Not super recently, but
It's insane, dude. Like, it legitimately, just go into the 7-Eleven over in Brock and just go to, like, where you can go get a drink.
oh yeah, over there it's like you've got like yogurts and you've got
Yeah.
smoothies and it's crazy.
I try and, like, honestly figure out, like, does it make more sense for me to eat 3 times a day at 7-Eleven? Like, from a financial dollar
yeah,
to
yeah.
calorie standpoint, I honestly think, given my metabolism and how I work, and, like, I think it would actually work for me.
Yeah.
And then to go back to, like, the mental health, bike economy side of things, 7-Eleven is, yeah, a 7-Eleven in your area brings down property values, but it's also, like, unfortunately, a refuge for a lot of these people to actually get some sort of food. Because, like, I'm looking at them, I'm like, how do you cook? You can't cook chicken breasts on the side of the street,
Yeah.
right? Like, you need food, and you need it now, and you need it at probably an hour that's inconvenient. It's 7-Eleven. And I think 7-Eleven could actually make a really good comeback in, like, the next decade.
Well, I think-
in a good but sad way, with automation, if the right approach.
Yeah. I remember when I was growing up, the idea of the corner store was more of a thing, and that's what 7-Eleven has kind of become. It's become the corner store. It's just a franchise now.
I loved my corner stores. I remember my corner stores.
Yeah.
Right? Like, like there's little red brick building, and
Yeah.
like it's narrow, and it was owned by an immigrant family who lived above
Yep.
it, and they hustled their ass off. My current corner store, shout out Parkrest convenience store, I want to buy it, man. Like, I want to buy it,
Yep.
and I want to live above it, and I want to renovate it below into like a pizzeria, corner store, soda shop,
Live
and
the
that's
dream,
my
man.
retirement plan, man. Because that's the perfect location.
Yeah.
Like, to have like a whole community around you, and to be honest, like, I don't mind. I'm paying 50 cents more for like whatever I'm buying from them,
Mm-hmm.
like whether it be like Hard Bite chips. Shout out Hard Bite, they're dope. 50 cents more is nothing for me to like go to like have someone who legit recognizes me,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
and I don't know, like there's that camaraderie. Like
Yeah.
like I'm really excited that the one opened up across from Norcam recently too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that old one.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, so that one finally opened up. I haven't
Cool.
popped into it, but like, I don't know, like I think corner stores are important. Hey, man.
Yeah, I remember, again, reminiscing about corner stores. Thursday mornings, I used to have a paper route, deliver the papers, and when I was done, I'd stop in at the corner store, and I would check out the new comic releases before they were even on the rack. So I got first dibs on the comics.
Isn't that something that's like, that's making a comeback too, is like drop culture,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like back in the day, like magazines, as soon as it come out, you'd rush out and want to go see it or whatever.
Yeah,
it be.
yeah.
But that's coming back in its own way with like shoes and streetwear, and sports cards and a whole bunch of stuff. It's very, very interesting seeing history repeat itself right now.
Yeah.
And seeing like...
And it's interesting, too, speaking of that, because that's very much like, the idea of when you had weekly TV shows.
Yes.
Everyone would rush out to talk about it right afterwards. That kind of went away for a while once the Netflix system went in, binge everything, watch it right now immediately. And now Disney Plus is going back to the weekly episodic thing. And they're probably one of the few, if not the only, companies big enough to do that and sort of force the culture to adapt to what they're doing?
Sure. Netflix did adopt like the drip culture idea on certain shows.
I think though when it did, those were shows that they were produced somewhere else. Like for example, Riverdale.
Yes.
It's not a Netflix show. It's on the CW, I think, in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
So their contract with the CW would have only allowed them to release each episode weekly.
Okay.
All of the Netflix shows themselves are, just dropped
released.
in.
Got it. Yeah. I just know, like, it's all about having an archive to begin with.
Yeah.
So as soon as you have a big enough archive, it actually doesn't really matter about how much you release something if you're at
got
that
enough
scale.
other things, yeah.
Right? Like for me, it matters to release as many podcasts as I can and whatever it be, right? But if I had 1,000 podcast archive, I could just leave it there. Like, that's enough, right? Like, it's just, you need to find that one that just clicks or whatever it be. So it's interesting how, like...
But I think it changes, too, depending on, whether it's topical, what's
for sure
part of the conversation right now. I mean, everybody wanted to be talking about Game of Thrones during its last season.
That's why Patriot... Do you see Patriot? Do you watch Patriot?
No, I don't.
Hassan, oh, my gosh. He had Justin Trudeau on.
Yeah.
So funny. He's like... Basically says, like, Justin, repeat after me. You won't sell arms to the Saudis. And Justin just sits there like... Fantastic show. It's basically like a Gen X millennial. This hour has 22 minutes PowerPoint comedian conversation for
what platform is it on?
Netflix.
Okay.
This Patriot guy is really good. Like they have, like he's Indian. He's very well spoken. He knows how to play the race card tactfully so that it like furthers the agenda of equality, which I think is something many people don't understand. And he's done things like corruption in cricket.
Okay.
He's done like basically the two-party system in Canada, fentanyl, like just very smart, humorous entertainment.
Yeah, but on big subjects.
But on topical subjects because they do the weekly release. And it's kind of like a little bit in South Park, like you see it happening in the news, and then it kind of pops up, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Like it's on brand, which is what podcasts are taking off for, and social media stores, and that's what the news needs to stay current on, or whatever it be, right? But getting away from all that, what hobby, what niche, what's your personal playground here in Kamloops?
I'm big into the theater community. I've been wanting to get more into filmmaking. I've made a couple of short films and would like to make more. I have a feature I'd like to make adapting a play I wrote. But it's, I don't know. I think I'd get more done if there weren't video games.
Yeah. See, I'm lucky. I'm not a gamer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not. I'm like. I dabbled with Nintendo and Pokemon and Game Boys and stuff, but like my family never allowed the culture of video games.
Okay, yeah.
So it kind of like insulated me from that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But also like I understand the cultural relevance. Shout out Nintendo. Seriously, that CEO working for $1 a year to not lay people off. Like Nintendo is a company I respect so much.
Yeah.
Like, and
well, that's quite different from a lot of the American game companies that they're forcing people to put in 14, 16, 18 hours a day and then laying them off as soon as the game comes out sometimes. So.
Oh, I'm blown away at the entertainment industry and entertainment culture and how we so much are an entertainment culture society that it confuses me that people can like have a $400 console system.
Yeah.
and be able to buy the $80 release and all this stuff. Because, like, in my world, it's like, I didn't really get to have a vacation for the last 2 years till, like, very recently. Like, that just wasn't in the books. Like, how do you do this? Like,
well,
even
for me, I didn't buy a console brand new. I bought it secondhand for like $250.
Oh, for sure, of course.
And I rarely buy brand new video games.
What's the game you're playing?
Red Dead Redemption 2 right now. That was one of the last ones I bought brand new, just because it was.
I like that theme.
So up my alley.
The idea of, like, Old Town Road, man on a horse.
Yeah, no, it's very cool.
Right, like. Honestly, like, if I was you, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to screen record this game because they let you record that now. That's a large part of video games.
Yeah, actually,
Xbox 360.
I streamed some Blair Witch last night.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But I would do, like, a Kamloops Old Town Road horse Dead Red Redemption thing, right? Be like, find all the locations that are like, this looks like Mount Peter and Paul.
Yeah.
And kind of, like, stitch it together to, like, make, like, just a 30-second little video, right? Because, like, if you're going to play it, make it useful.
For sure, yeah.
Because people would be interested in that, right? And Dead Red Redemption has a massive following.
Yeah.
Not that I understand anything about it. Fun fact, I bought a PS3 from Future Shop purely so I could hook a hard drive up to play all the stolen movies I had to a really old CRT TV.
Okay.
Like a really old square one because I got it for free.
Yeah.
So that I could have my now wife come over to come to our blow-up couch and watch movies with me.
How romantic.
Yeah. I had to buy a PS3 to steal movies.
Whatever platform works.
It's a pretty good platform, actually. Like, consoles are... I missed the early days of consoles where people were hacking them and whatever right? Like, it was very cool back in, like, early Xbox days. And
yeah, for sure.
I remember going to the library and, like, there's books of, like, how to turn your Super Nintendo into a personal Super Nintendo, and it was like step-by-step instructions, and like
I remember Xbox Media Center, I think, was a big thing, being able to turn your original Xbox into a media platform,
because they were just personal computers that were like $400, and just hooked up to your TV, like,
and they gated off a bunch of features that were still technically there if you could rip those gates off, right?
Yeah, totally. It's and now you're at this world where, like, yeah, you can't even buy a tractor and own it. John Deere will keep the licenses and IP and stuff.
Yeah.
We're in a very, very interesting subscription-based world where I think blockchain's going to change a lot of things. The great leveling is yet to come.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. I think my daughter's generation will really see it. I think it's our generation, or our times of adulthood generation, shake things up, but I think it's going to be my daughter's generation that's going to fix it. I think Gen Z's too fucked to begin with.
I think it'll happen faster than we expect. Most things do, though they rarely happen in the way we expect them to.
Totally. Yeah. Like, in grade, thinking back to grade 9, there's no way my teachers would have predicted what, a mobile phone is, or the psychology of it, or the power of it, or the fact that, like, in theory, I can DM the Prime Minister of Canada right now. Yeah, I have direct access.
I mean, he'll ignore you, but
he'll ignore me. But I did have his communications officer block me on Facebook, on Instagram, so I know that they get the message. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's other ways. Yeah. Right. Like, no longer are we just like, mail, and faxing black pieces of paper to people. Shout out the old days.
No,
it's
better now.
It is. It very much is. I remember, like,
that's one of those things that infuriates me too. I shouldn't say infuriates. It doesn't bother me that much. But when people on Facebook post about how, like, things were better in the past. Well, okay, so maybe that one moment of you wandering through the woods hand in hand with someone you loved was really fantastic. But we didn't understand cancer as well back then, and we didn't have access to information as well as
we're in the
now.
Greater, like, every day is the greatest day in history ever.
Exactly.
Like, I remember thinking back to, like, 4 years ago, I legitimately was planning on making a pirate box. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of them. You take a Wi-Fi router and you make it just a public open router, and then you add a USB brain to it, basically.
Right.
And you run all the software off the USB, and there's no internet. It's just people can go onto it
and
now
access the stuff that's on the USB.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I was going to hide that in like a ceiling of some cafe and just with like an electrical out and then just be like, guys, like we need to start thinking about things in different ways, right? Like, and now jump over to, this time around, you can literally do that with like your phone and you can just iDrop or whatever these iPhone messages have.
Right.
You can just send photos to people, and if they've got the settings on their phone, it just automatically appears.
Right.
And high school kids have turned that into a social network. Like if they have a party in school, right, and you have the settings turned on, they will drop an invitation or the secret code or whatever it be, right? Like it's drop culture, it's hidden, it's going private again. And I'm just very interested to see how Kamloops is going to move, right? Like Reddit, our Kamloops on Reddit should be bigger than it is, right? Like the amount of trolls in this town for the size that it is that are on Facebook, they should be on Reddit. Like,
yeah, fair enough.
Like that would be like more free for them to do whatever they want to do. But, they're stuck to Facebook. But as soon as Facebook really goes secret again, like, it's going to be an exciting time because they're not going to know what to do.
Yeah.
But what's something we haven't talked about, Todd, as we get close to the hour length and as I watch my battery slowly drip down. But we're still good. Got still 2 bars. You just never know when it's going to go that 1 bar, then you never know.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
What's something that people often misunderstand about you? That's literally one of my favorite questions.
That's a really interesting question. I think I really don't know.
It's kind of a good thing, in a way.
I think, because I do try to be very honest in all of my engagements with people and try to be very upfront about who I am. So I don't really feel like people misunderstand me a whole lot, which, now that I think about it, I'm pretty grateful for. It doesn't make for a terribly fulfilling answer to the question, but...
Now, I'm just going to review your fit for the audience right now, what you're wearing.
Okay,
Is that okay?
Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely.
Todd would actually fit in very, very well with the young generation with his polo. He's got his man satchel.
I do.
Right, and it's pulled up front, and he's wearing jeans and boots. Like
would normally be on the side, but there's a chair in the way there.
If we took a couple gray hairs off his face and maybe gave him
more than a couple,
some a more interesting hairstyle, maybe some blues.
I don't have enough
dreads.
I was going to say
you would be.
I don't have enough hair for an interesting hairstyle.
You'd be a pretty good SoundCloud rapper or Instagram model. Like your fit works. Like it's culturally trending right now.
Is it?
Yeah, and
because I feel like this is just sort of the general. I don't care about fashion, and therefore I can get by just with this look.
Oh yeah, that's rap again.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. The only difference is like ideally it would be a legit polo branded polo.
Oh yeah, okay.
But since it's not, it's
I would
the
push
inverse.
against that sort of thing.
Yeah. See. Now you're making a statement that that you're better than the designer brands.
Hell yeah.
Shout out to Blacka de Dawn. Don't need no designer. Toronto-based rapper. Really good rapper, actually. Really funny video where he drives around to Walmart saying he doesn't need designer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He also has a really good song about Sriracha.
Okay.
Shout out to Sriracha.
You know what? I don't think I've ever consciously tried Sriracha, and I am a fan of hot sauces. So.
I went to it recently because it's $4.
Yeah.
And my understanding is the guy who owns it is actually a pretty good bloke.
Yeah.
And I can't be buying $8 to $11 hot sauces at the rate that I use it. And it's good. And you know what? It's very culture relevant in that Black of the Dawn's talking about putting sriracha on his rice because that's all he got to eat in the trap, right? Or where he was living, right? So it's it has a lot of cultural value to a subsector of the forgotten, the ones who are struggling to eat, right? I was amazed. I was talking with someone yesterday, and they were casually mentioning that they had to rendezvous at the food bank, and I was kind of impressed that he was kind of okay with being that candid with me, but also you know what, man? I hope you have some sriracha because you don't know what you're going to be eating, right? You got to add some sort of flavor, and you can't.
I think for me, it was just a couple of years ago, it suddenly became like the hot sauce, and like Subway had Sriracha on their things, and Sriracha was everywhere. And whenever something gets that popular, I have a knee-jerk opposing reaction to it. So I was just like, no, I don't want Sriracha.
Sure.
I'll give it a try eventually once that knee-jerk reaction wears off.
But, like, I was Frank's for how long?
Yeah.
Right? And then I just look at the price difference. I'm like,
yeah.
You know what? Like, at least I know Sriracha seems to have, like, a decent story. And if I'm not mistaken, yeah, it's this Indian guy creates it. And, you know, he seems to want to support, you know, his workers, as far as I can tell, right? And the whole, you know, T-shirts being sold at Walmart of Sriracha and the culture of Sriracha is hilarious, right? It's what Frank's wanted.
The only reason I started using Frank's is I moved into a place that had a bottle of Frank's still in the fridge, so it was like, well, I guess I'll start using that, and it was good. So.
I put that shit on everything.
That's a good message. I love that.
Right? Like they understood, like, that was humorous, that was entertaining, and, like, you know what? Like, I play with that joke because there's a rapper by the name of Frank's.
Yeah.
He's a bigger guy, right? You know, like, I put that shit on everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, he can culturally appropriate Frank's hot sauce if he really wanted to, but he's not really. That's not his plan. His name just is Aaron Franks, and that's just his rap name. But
they brought the messaging out again, I think, recently with a new campaign. I don't think it works as well as when they had the old lady doing it. For some reason, you know, having a tiny old woman swearing is funnier than anybody else.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
They're trying to be nostalgic because it's going to hit the 90s kids like me, right? Like my generation is probably the most valuable generation to target right now because you have decades of purchases.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? We're the ones with young kids too, right? Like General Mills 1, my kids growing up on Honey Nut Cheerios, right? Like, I want to make my own cereal company. I was actually talking to Acacia a little bit from the Chamber of Commerce saying, like, you should make Cami cereal or like Cami the fish cereal. That would be dope. Cameos, yeah. Yeah, I was, you know, I need that plug, man. Like, or I was gonna go with Cactus Jacks for like an Apple Jacks ripoff. I thought that would be funny. Like, you know, like or you have like just like a changing monthly
cactus
theme.
And cinnamon flavors.
Yeah, totally. I think like Camo should like appropriate like the cowboy emoji, the cactus, and like the desert emoji, or like find the certain emojis, or like could be the fish. Like Camo needs to find its emoji.
Right. Okay.
Right. So like when someone sees something like Cammy the fish, they have those feelings of like, oh yeah, I need to be a good Kamloopian. You know what I mean? Like that's what Honey Nut Cheerios is kind of do. Will or appears to be trying to do with like the yellow heart and the black heart, right? You know, that's, or the honeybee, or you know, Nipsey Hussle had the blue heart, right? Shout out to Nipsey. But it's very interesting how you can kind of like take these relatively meaningless emojis that were just so in their infancy and were created out of necessity during my high school years to express emotions we couldn't put into words.
Yeah.
And people thought we were crazy. People thought like we were lazy. People thought like, and now we have grandmas texting emojis and making massive...
Yeah, emojis, I've had such a difficult time getting into emojis. Now there's like so friggin' many of them. I don't even know how to begin. But I mean, I came from the emoticon culture of, you know, before we had the actual images.
ASCII.
Yeah, you have the colon and the bracket to make the smiley face. And I loved the forced creativity of trying to come up with these expressions using nothing but text characters.
Yeah, it was... some places call them dongers. Okay. And it's a very, very creative. Like the guy flipping the table. Like, you know what I'm talking about right now. Yeah. Do you know how to make it? Hell no. Nope. But it was very free.
It makes me feel now like one of those, you know, when I was a kid, we had to make our own emojis.
But that in itself was like starting the meme, right?
Yeah.
Like that just goes to show how slow it takes for an idea to infiltrate society and culture. But also, if you realize how far we've come from like literally BlackBerry BBMs to now having, you know, Telegram, which is an alt-right haven at this point, created by two Russian brothers, of course.
Of course.
And if you squish that down, right, you can realize how quick you could put messaging out in one day if you want to be tactful. Not saying that everyone's tactful or not saying everyone's putting out the right messaging, but like it's very, very cool to see, like, yeah, those stupid little colons and brackets and parentheses and slashes and hyphens and semicolons are now a multi-million-dollar movie that you can watch on Netflix.
Right? That's nuts. It's so crazy. And it seems now, too, like every time a new version of Android or iOS comes out, that's one of the features, is it's got new emojis.
Yeah,
now.
they push new emojis. And well, symbols are so powerful.
Yep.
Right? Like the whole Pepe thing, right? Like I'm trying to culturally appropriate the gemstone one because it's like a blue that it is impactful to me. I really like the blue, and I think, like, time and pressure makes a diamond. So, like, here's this diamond, and I think it also plays off of the idea of verified badges because everyone wants a verified Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, right? Like, okay, now I'm making fun of you, right? Like, what is clout? Clout is, I have some guy literally getting a face tattoo in trade for a moderator badge on a Facebook forum.
Oh my God.
He's already got face tattoos.
Yeah.
But he's going to put one that I've directed.
Okay.
CAUG, Canadian Artists Underground Group, or basically it's Canadian Underground Hip Hop Forum.
Yeah.
And he's going to get that on his eyebrow or something. He's already got YOLO written on his eyelids, but like, that's clout, but it's not. There's no value to that.
Yeah.
It's literally the equivalent of an emoji, which is literally the equivalent of, like, it could have been like greater than symbol, colon, third parentheses.
Yep.
Actually, no. I'm going to add 3 parentheses because I need that racist connotation. Because, we all know De Beers controls the diamond industry.
Exactly, yes.
Let's get back to conspiracy theories because they're also taking over culture. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's absolutely terrifying.
QAnon, yeah.
QAnon, any conspiracies. I legitimately had a multiple conversation with someone yesterday about Flat Earth in a non-satirical way until I bent them into making it satirical again. So if someone read it, they realize it's a joke.
It's an erosion of science. It's an erosion of people's willingness to accept and ability to understand science.
Or it's the transcendence of the psychology of the platforms. It's what it might not be that they're not as educated. It might be that they just know how to execute. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe it's not so much that they're not educated. It's that the conversation has gradually eroded people's faith in science. The more pushback there is on vaccines, the more pushback there is on climate change, the more pushback there's going to be on things like the Earth being a sphere.
The same people who believe in chemtrails think climate change is a scam, which is hilarious to me because, like, okay, so you believe the government is creating, is spraying chemicals in the air through plane jet streams to combat climate change or to suppress human emotion, but now you're also telling me in the same breath that that's affecting the weather, but you don't believe in climate change? Wait, what? Like, you're spinning in circles there, buddy. I don't think some people realize that I take them in circles either, which is unfortunate. I guess is an erosion of the education. I was very privileged with my education.
Yeah.
I was very privileged to grow up online the way I did.
Yeah.
Because people couldn't communicate with me in a normal sense. I very much think in a digital format.
Yeah.
And that's confusing to people.
I think the most important thing that we can do education-wise is make sure that people's critical thinking skills are on point.
Yeah.
That's really one of the most important things that I'm trying to do with my daughter is make sure that she's always questioning, she's always thinking critically about everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which is actually a very that's a white privilege to be able to actually question, like to shout out to Malcolm Gladwell, like white people in a doctor's office ask more questions because they feel comfortable in that power dynamic to question a doctor.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is literally, in a way, all white people's fault. And I don't like being that guy who likes blaming white people. I just like being the guy going, like, guys, the data actually seems to show that white people are more likely to question the authority in an assertive manner, which...
And I don't necessarily mean just questioning authority, just when you see a post on Facebook.
Of course.
You stop and say, does this seem realistic?
But a post on Facebook could be the authority.
That's true, yeah.
The authority could be my family relative who, by elders' old school sake, I need to respect. And I actually had someone recently go like, Nevin, that's your elder. Don't say that. I'm like, yeah, well, an elder needs to have something of value to teach me because I'm still fucking smarter than you.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't want to be that guy. Right? Like if you want to be an elder, if you want to say you're a teacher or you're a senior, you have to have something of value and that you're trying to impart. That's not false. You know? And respect is a funny thing. Like respect does not come with age, in my opinion.
Yeah,
my
I agree.
opinion. I need to repeat this a lot. I'm so ageist, it's not even funny, because I believe in merits, and I'm concerned that so many people look at me as a young kid.
Yeah. But
then it's like, but Andrew Scheer started at 25 as an MP. Oh, I better wait till I'm 30 to run for politics so I don't have that issue, right? But like, you know, it's very, very interesting where like I look at you and your manner, your approach, it's actually quite progressive, which in many people's mind means a younger mindset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, as I've gotten older, I've thought about the phrase or whatever, the saying that people start as liberals when they're young and they become more conservative as they get older. And that's definitely not been the case for me. I think I've probably become more liberal as I've gotten older.
I had that exact conversation in the basement of Redbeard with Mitch Forgy.
Yeah.
About becoming conservative, right? Because, you know, he's got his manifesto, which honestly a journalist needs to compare to what's currently happening and see like how much he predicted and what's coming right. Because I think that'd be a fascinating multi-part series. And I think I swayed more conservative way, and then I've come back and at this point like I don't want to be the guy who says screw the scale, but like screw the scale, right? I feel like we're not to throw science and geopolitics out completely, but we're so much at a point where like we need to fill the buckets of things we can look on Wikipedia rather than trying to create something radically different. And I'm radical in many respects, but also I'm very traditional too, right? Like in the sense that like I don't want handouts, but I don't mind help.
Yeah, exactly. And I think again that comes down to framing it, right?
Yeah.
You know, a friend of mine posted on Facebook recently about the unfairness of, you know, people getting welfare and that sort of thing. And I just commented that, you know, I didn't feel like it was particularly unfair when I was out of work and I was struggling and, you know, I needed it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he commented back saying, well, I didn't mean you. Well,
you don't get to pick or choose, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like it's difficult for people to understand the idea of the common good and for them to understand like how privileged they are, but also like adversity is a privilege too. Like and that's a something I've stolen from Gary Vaynerchuk, but the idea that like working hard and being in adverse conditions gives you a mindset and an understanding that someone of entitlement and privilege will not understand. And that in itself means you could win if you figure out what you're supposed to win.
You know, I think framing anything as universally a privilege is probably,
sure.
You know, because in the right mindset, it can be. But in the wrong mindset, it's not going to be
I think that's a big problem, that as people are able to podcast and put their like random thoughts out there, too many people take things hyper personally, because we talked about it earlier about how I make things hyper personal, but also should realize maybe that wasn't talking about me. And I've noticed that a lot. Like as someone who struggles with their mental health, sometimes it feels like the world is talking to me in very obscure ways. And it's like, oh no, that's not me. That's literally just someone saying their own thoughts. And 100% not about me. I have no relation. But anyways, I'm going to have to jet pretty soon there,
sure, yeah,
Todd.
No
But where can people find you, reach out, and leave some parting words for us? You're not. You are on Twitter.
I am on Twitter. I'm /loser, LEWZR.
I like that because it's like old leet speak.
Yeah, I first used that playing bar trivia.
Okay.
On those little electronic bar trivia machines, and I just liked the way it's spelled, and I like the fact that if I lost the game, nobody would be disappointed because I said right up front I'm probably going to be a loser, and I ended up sort of stealing that. It's my Xbox Live gamer tag. It's my Twitter. As I've gotten older, I found like maybe I should have had something a bit more professional to use. I certainly don't want to start a new Twitter account now because I've been on it for like 10 or 11 years. And
no, I think it's actually great, and I think in terms of your like career and like what and your personality stuff, it's. I don't know. I think it's a good balance of like satire, but also who you are.
It's tricky because on the one hand, yeah, it is very much me. On the other hand, like I said, there are times when I feel like maybe I need to be a bit more professional. But
luckily, you're also not like the hard hitting news.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
That's not necessary for your position, right?
Yeah.
You are a more commentator, community,
community feature.
You know, like hey, let's tip the scales.
Which thank God, yeah, I'd rather be doing that than hard news, honestly.
Yeah, you're at the point where you need to be like enjoying your life a little bit more, not getting more gray hairs.
Got enough already, yeah.
Well, thanks for chatting with me there, Todd. I'm going to the jet.
For sure. Thank you.
If you're new to the podcast, please consider the community or joining the community forum on Facebook. It's where I try and put on people in kamloops who make some cool digital stuff and share it digitally because I'm all about digital art. That's my jam. Be sure to subscribe. Give me a review on iTunes if you're a Apple person. I'm not, so I don't really have any reviews. It does help. Not that I care. And that's it. That's all. I'm going to start putting out a lot more podcasts because I'm finally in a pretty good mindset to be able to do it. And I finally have a lot of systems in place to allow me to really scale this to the next level. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Please feel free to give me any feedback, whether it be on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it be. Find the Nevin Webster account because I have too many accounts to actually follow all of my accounts. So it's easier if you just hit me up personally. I won't be offended. 250-572-4668. And that's it for Kamloops Unscripted Podcast.
Bye.
Bye.